Vince McMahon has returned to his office at WWE headquarters in Titan Tower, and what he's doing there has now been revealed. The reason behind Stephanie McMahon's WWE exit has also been revealed, according to reports. Major League Wrestling sends WWE a cease and desist letter after WWE reportedly contacted its contracted talent. Matt Riddle is out of rehab and expected to return to WWE TV soon. Stone Cold Steve Austin, reportedly his return match plans have now been scrapped, according to reports. A spoiler on a WWE Hall of Famer set for a Royal Rumble appearance. Ronda Rousey will not be at the Royal Rumble, and we have the reasons why. The first picture of William Regal since his WWE return has been released. The Banger Bros, that name you will not hear anymore on WWE TV as the name has been dropped. And also the Bella Twins give an update on their criticism of Raw this week, and a WWE absence has been explained. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well as always, and as you can tell with that intro, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about who else but Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Yes, the WWE Executive Chairman, he's back in the company and he's now back in the office. According to PW Insider, Vince McMahon was spotted at WWE headquarters during this week. McMahon is the Executive Chairman of the WWE Board of Directors, having returned to the board on January 6th and then being elected executive chairman on January 10th. McMahon claimed as the controlling shareholder he needed to return to help lead the upcoming round of media rights negotiations. On January 12th, WWE announced that they were engaging with outside advisors to review strategic alternatives. Upcoming media rights negotiations were the reason given for WWE going to outside advisors, but reports indicated that WWE was also preparing to sell the company. With McMahon returning to his position on the board, WWE held talent meetings in the preceding weeks with Triple H stating that none of what is going on with Vince McMahon would change the creative process that he has in place or the team that helps put it together. In the meetings, Triple H did keep it open and say that anything could change because this is WWE after all, but right now, Vince McMahon defers final creative call to Triple H. Triple H also said that while he and Vince McMahon may have discussions, he makes the final call. Now, WWE CEO Nick Khan has stated that Vince will not return to television, quote, at this moment, and that if he did, it would be a conversation between Vince and Triple H. Now, as to what Vince McMahon is doing in his office at WWE HQ, we've got a bit of an update on that. Further details of just what Vince is doing in his own office as WWE Executive Chairman have now been revealed. In the current Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer writes, quote, as for Vince McMahon, there is a difference in him at the office between the Vince of before and this Vince. He is generally working on the sale, and he hasn't been to any television shoots yet, nor at any of the creative meetings. It was noted to us that the Vince who was at the office all night and sometimes into the early morning is not the case at this point, as he leaves work now at a normal time since his duties are lessened, most notably the long creative meetings. But even on nights without long creative meetings, the old Vince would be in the office until late at night. Now, of course, that isn't the plan, that isn't the case right now, but nevertheless, anything can and will change with Vince McMahon, so it's just the next step, isn't it? The first step was getting back on the board of directors, check. The next step was becoming executive chairman, check. The next step was amending the company bylaws, check. The next step was returning to the office, check. What would the next one be? We'll have to wait and see. Now, as part of Vince McMahon's return, Stephanie McMahon, his daughter, exited the company. On January 10, 2023, it was announced that Stephanie McMahon had resigned from her position as co-CEO of WWE. Her official statement confirmed that she had, quote, decided to return to my leave and take it one step further with my official resignation. Dave Meltzer has now provided further details of the reason behind her departure. Addressing the issue in the current Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer stated, quote, the story internally as to why Stephanie McMahon really left is that, and this comes from those unhappy that she left, is that she had done a great job thrown into the co-CEO role, and with Vince back, was about to be demoted, and basically she didn't need the money or the job and had already decided last year to take a leave anyway. Of course, the difference between a leave and staying on the board and a full break and leaving the board indicates this was a lot stronger move. Nick Khan recently spoke about Stephanie McMahon's decision to resign in an interview on the Bill Simmons podcast, saying, quote, she came back because her dad asked her to come back, end quote. Now, again, that's WWE PR saying, oh, she was always planning to leave anyway, but as Dave Meltzer states, and I do think he's accurate on this case, before it was just a hiatus, it was just a sabbatical, it was just a break from the company. As she stated in her statement, this is one step further. This is a full-blown resignation. She's gone, which would imply there's a bit more to this story when it comes to Stephanie McMahon. Clearly, there are issues between her and her father, particularly surrounding her father's return to the company. Now, speaking of issues, there are a lot of issues between Major League Wrestling and World Wrestling Entertainment. The WWE has reportedly been sent a cease and desist in relation to the company contacting already contracted talent in a notable promotion. According to the current issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, MLW sources have said they have sent a cease and desist letter to WWE after the promotion attempted to contact some of its contracted talent to appear on the Raw 30th anniversary show. One would think it would have to have been members of the Anoa'i and Fatu family for the planned family acknowledgement ceremony, which ended up falling through. MLW sources have said Court Bauer told the talent to have WWE reach out to them directly and didn't say he would allow them to appear, just to go through him. They never did, and the segment ended up being cancelled for the reasons noted earlier. WWE didn't respond to questions regarding the cease and desist or the claim. Now, the Anoa'i and Fatu family were scheduled to feature in the acknowledgement ceremony for Roman Reigns on the WWE Raw is 30 anniversary special. Now, the segment ultimately was replaced with the trial of Sami Zayn after Afa and Sika and Rikishi were reportedly unable to get to the show. According to reports also from Dave Meltzer, Afa and Sika were, quote, not ready for the trip. Rikishi had also reportedly, quote, got sick during the week leading up to the show. So that's really why. You can't really have an acknowledgement ceremony with all of the generations of the bloodline when hardly anyone from the bloodline appears. Afa and Sika, really important, of course, being Roman Reigns' father and uncle. Obviously with Rikishi as well, being the Usos' father, they were going to have, I think, other people there. It would make sense that they would go for Jacob Fatu from MLW, but again for WWE, bear in mind WWE are actively in litigation with MLW. That's why I don't get with this story. WWE are actively in litigation with Major League Wrestling because of MLW alleges that WWE put pressure on the likes of Vice and streaming outlets to drop or not pick up MLW programming, etc. So why on earth would WWE reach out to MLW talent? I don't understand. And particularly if they did not go through the appropriate channels, like, surely you would. I mean, everything's got to be above board. You're actively in a lawsuit against them. Why would you, under the table, try and contact contracted talent? That, to me, just seems bizarre. So, and WWE, they're not stupid. They've got a lot of lawyers working on this case. So that's the last thing they need right now. With all of the negative publicity they've received regarding Vince McMahon's return and all that kind of stuff, they would maybe breach like contract to law. I just don't think they would do that unless they were really, really stupid. So I think this story's a bit odd, to be honest with you. And when Dave Meltzer says MLW sources, that means Court Bauer told them, most likely. So we'll see with this one, but certainly it's an interesting story. Now, let's talk about Matt Riddle. Of course, Matt Riddle has been absent from WWE television for about 2 months, and the reason why is because he's been in rehab. It has been reported that former Raw Tag Team Champion Matt Riddle is now out of rehab, indicating that he could make a WWE return soon to television. Riddle last appeared for WWE on the December 5th edition of Monday Night Raw. During the show, he was attacked by Solo Sikoa and stretchered out of the arena. Writing Riddle off of television, WWE announced that the star would be out of action for 6 weeks. A report then emerged from Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net a week later, claiming that Riddle had failed a drugs test and would be going to rehab, the apparent, quote, real reason he was written off of television. While a source close to Riddle denied the story, claiming that Riddle had been off TV due to the pressure of him going through a divorce, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful stated that he had seen a lot of stuff to back up Cassidy Haynes' original story. Dave Meltzer now reports that Riddle is indeed out of rehab and has been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Meltzer wrote the following in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, Riddle, who is out of rehab, got his BJJ black belt this past week training under Daniel Gracie. Riddle was announced as returning in 6 weeks after the injury angle on December 12. That would indicate a Rumble return, although if he suspended 2 months, he wouldn't make that timeline. During Riddle's absence, the company hasn't shied away from mentioning him, including even having Elias throw a tribute concert for him. Now, WWE is reportedly happy with the surprises planned for this Saturday's premium live event, including both Rumble matches. So Matt Riddle could certainly be a possibility in there. Maybe Solo Sikoa's cleaning house, and maybe that's where Matt Riddle comes back. But as Dave Meltzer said, if he's been suspended for a certain period of time, then maybe he doesn't last the Rumble. We'll have to wait and see. But given the fact that I think it's something like 16 people have announced for the men's Rumble, look, it doesn't mean that there's going to be 14 surprises. Probably max 8, something like that. It won't be a ton. So Riddle being a full-time main roster return, that would make sense. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's out of rehab, which would mean that he should be returning to WWE TV very soon. Now, speaking of returns to television, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the WWE Hall of Famer, is he going to be wrestling this year at WrestleMania? Is he going to be at the Rumble tomorrow? Well, following his first match in almost 20 years at WrestleMania 38, WWE fans have wanted another appearance by Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, he's been so much the center of speculation with conflicting reports from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful and Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter contradicting each other, then Dave Meltzer walking it back and saying, well, actually, I was wrong, but not in the way Dave Meltzer does, which is, oh, it was both, or plans change. He does that one a lot. Now, a recent report has stated that there had been a pitch, rather, to see Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 39, though the possibility of a match against Roman Reigns was also reportedly considered. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has explored the scrap plans for a Steve Austin return in further detail, saying, quote, WWE had also talked of getting Austin for another match at SummerSlam last year, and the attempt for this year for Mania was to get him with Lesnar, with the idea of it being a first-time ever dream match. Now, Brock Lesnar, of course, returned to WWE at the Raw's 30th anniversary show, helping Austin Theory retain the United States title over Bobby Lashley. Of course, it looks like they're going to be building up to another match between Lesnar and Lashley. Whilst plans for Steve Austin may not, at the time of recording, be apparent, he was recently confirmed as being in the roster for the upcoming WWE 2K23 video game. I still think there's a real possibility Steve Austin wrestles at WrestleMania. To be honest, whilst obviously Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar is a massive match and it is a dream match, and there is a story there, being that was the match back in 2002, that ill-fated, infamous episode of Monday Night Raw, the King of the Ring qualifier, in which Brock Lesnar was going to defeat Stone Cold Steve Austin in a match that had just no hype, no story built into it, could have been a money match. Steve Austin wasn't happy with that and he walked out of WWE. Now, eventually he came back in February of 2003, got fined a ton of money by Vince McMahon and then retired a month later after facing The Rock at WrestleMania. There is a story there and the match has never been done. However, I just think the logistics of that match, in terms of the physicality, how on earth would that work? Brock Lesnar's style nowadays, it's not like the Brock Lesnar in 2003 or 2002 and 2004, where he actually worked matches. Brock Lesnar, the way he does the matches is he'll get, someone might, get a few shots in, but then he'll do suplexes. Stone Cold Steve Austin should not be taking one German suplex, let alone 50 or 10 or 15 or however many it be on, not alone suplex. He shouldn't be taking them. So I don't know how you work that Brock Lesnar match unless it's just punches and kicks. The Roman Reigns match makes more sense because they can work a match and it's not all about suplexes and dropping Steve Austin on his neck, which is part of the reason he had to retire in the first place. So I just don't see how they would do that match. And I think whilst Brock and Steve are good friends, I think they would be like, that's probably not the best one for us to do. So I don't see that match happening. I think more likely could be Steve Austin versus Roman Reigns, which I think is the bigger match. Anyway, I really do. Now, spoilers ahead. If you don't want to be spoiled for the Royal Rumble, there's a Hall of Famer that is scheduled to be at the show. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That Hall of Famer is none other than the Glamazon Beth Phoenix. Yes, Beth Phoenix is reportedly set to be at the Rumble tomorrow. With the Royal Rumble taking place this weekend, a report has emerged of a potential return at the January 28 event. WrestlingNews.co reports that a WWE Hall of Famer is scheduled to be at the Royal Rumble, though it's currently unknown as to what capacity that appearance will take. Per WrestlingNews.co's report, Beth Phoenix is scheduled to appear. It's not known whether she'll be one of the competitors in the Women's Royal Rumble match or if she's just going to be backstage. The report states that there had been plans for Phoenix to return to in-ring competition, with a match with her husband Edge taking on Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley at Elimination Chamber being suggested. In December, of last year, it was reported that Phoenix and Edge were both expected to make returns at the Royal Rumble. There was a bit of an update as to Edge and not wrestling at the Rumble. Even at one point, he was penciled in. Of course, the last time we saw Beth Phoenix and Edge, for that matter, was in October at Extreme Rules when Edge lost an I Quit match to Finn Balor. Of course, he lost that because Rhea Ripley threatened to hit Beth Phoenix with a concerto. Edge said, "I quit," and then she did it anyway. And they've been off television since. So one would think they could see a situation where Rhea Ripley's in the Rumble match. She's cleaning house. She's throwing everyone out. Out comes Beth Phoenix. They brawl. They eliminate both each other and brawl into the back. And that's how we get to the point where we have that mixed tag team match at Elimination Chamber. Maybe Beth Phoenix versus Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Maybe that's the direction that they're going in. Now, when it comes to the Rated R superstar himself, Edge, at one point, there were rumors and reports he was going to be facing the Demon Finn Balor inside Hell in a Cell at Royal Rumble. Well, with the event about 24 hours away or so, doesn't look like that's going to be happening. Now, details have emerged on scrapped plans for Edge's WWE return ahead of this weekend's Royal Rumble. Despite previous reports stating that there were plans for Edge to wrestle at the January 28 Premium Live event, the Radar superstar hasn't been announced for the show at the time of recording. WrestlingNews.co previously reported that Edge and Finn Balor were set to compete in a Hell in a Cell match at the upcoming event. In a follow-up, WrestlingNews.co has confirmed that plans for this match have been scrapped, so we won't see this match set up on SmackDown ahead of the Royal Rumble tonight. The report noted that it's currently unclear why the bout was scrapped. However, a source has stated there were also plans discussed surrounding Beth Phoenix's return. A previous report from Fightful noted that Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Judgment Day was penciled in for Elimination Chamber in February, so they might just shoot that angle. They might just shoot that angle tomorrow at the Rumble. But Fightful did also previously note that there were several changes made to this year's Rumble event, so it might just be they decided to change it. There's quite a lot packed for the show anyway. Both Rumble matches are going to last about an hour, so that's a couple of hours. You've got the Universal title match, big angle involved in that. The Pitch Black match, you've got Alexa Bliss and Bianca Belair. There's enough on that show. It probably doesn't need a Hell in a Cell match. That's probably their thinking. You're not going to have a Hell in a Cell match at Elimination Chamber. It's the wrong match for the wrong show. So maybe they just move it to WrestleMania. Maybe they have that Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. But is Edge Finn Balor Hell in a Cell match? Should that be on WrestleMania? I don't know. I mean, you let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, one person that won't be at the Rumble tomorrow is Ronda Rousey, reportedly. We've got some details as to why. The Royal Rumble, of course, is tomorrow, and in the current issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has explained the reasoning behind the decision to not have Ronda Rousey be a participant in the Rumble or be at the event. Quote, Ronda Rousey will not be in the Rumble, or at least that was the decision as of midweek, because of the feeling they didn't want to marginalize her star power by being just someone in the match, since she wasn't going to win it or be the focal point. Now, Rousey won last year's Royal Rumble match, going on to challenge Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Of course, she lost that match to Flair, although she did win the championship a month later, rather, at WrestleMania Backlash. I think it's the right move. I do. And you know, when it comes to these changes, the SmackDown, Women's Championship picture has changed quite a bit in the last month. And Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp has provided an update on this too. The last several weeks, there have been some significant changes to the women's title programs that were tentatively planned for the first quarter of this year. Fightful Select is reporting that Ronda Rousey's SmackDown Women's title defense against Raquel Rodriguez that took place on December 30 was originally planned to go down almost a full month later. Fightful has gained information that displays that the match was set for the Royal Rumble as of early December. However, the move was made to add Rousey and Raquel's match and Charlotte Flair's subsequent return and win to add more to the December 30 show, which was a big show. Of course, it featured the in-ring return of John Cena for the first time in over a year. Another interesting note is that several WWE plans have changed as a result of the relation to this. At the same period, Charlotte Flair was tentatively scheduled on a, quote, suggested matches list to wrestle Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley was set to take on Ronda Rousey, but that's when Rousey was still champion. Those familiar with the situation claim that Rousey was presented with several creative options, but they didn't work out. The decision was made to move the title match up with Raquel and put the title on Charlotte. So it would appear that for the Women's Championships, they don't really know what they're going to do going into WrestleMania at the moment, and that's why Rousey isn't there. I think it's the right move not having her in the Rumble, but I think her star power has dropped off massively. When Ronda Rousey first came in, she felt like a bona fide, legitimate star. And because of the break and because of the matches and because of all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't feel... She just doesn't feel as big of a star now. She just doesn't. And maybe, I don't know how they fix that. I don't know how they fix that. Bad booking, bad promos, bad creative, bad matches. she just doesn't feel as big anymore. And I think they're right to try and preserve what star power she has left. And that's not a lot, honestly, at the moment. William Regal is back in WWE, and for the first time we see him in an official WWE setting. Of course, this comes after he left AEW in December. Regal is now back in WWE as the Vice President of Global Talent Development, which requires him to be backstage for Raw and SmackDown most, if not all weeks. The first picture of Regal at work in his new WWE role was shared by WWE yesterday in a gallery looking behind the scenes at this week's Raw is 30 show. Regal is pictured beside Triple H and Bruce Pritchard in Gorilla as the show is going on. Good to see Regal back right by the side of Triple H once again. And Bruce Pritchard, a guy that wasn't even a Triple H guy, still manages to survive. It's unbelievable. He always manages to survive. One thing that isn't surviving is the Banger Bros. That name. Yes, that name, which sounds familiar. I can't put my finger on it as to why. WWE has called it a day with the Rude Tag Team name. Now, the team of Sheamus and Drew McIntyre revealed their new name on the January 6th episode of SmackDown, and what would be a failed attempt to defeat the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The team would become known as the Banger Bros. Naturally, this was because Sheamus was having banger after banger in the ring and not an Attitude Era throwback. Some noticed, though, however, the name is very similar to what is known in the industry as an adult entertainment website, and it would appear that this not safe for work reason and outlet is why WWE has decided to drop the name. Dave Meltzer has said in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, WWE has dropped the name the Banger Bros for Sheamus and McIntyre after finding about the adult film company, and I won't even say what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll move on. The Bella Twins, of course, they recently criticised WWE for the lack of female representation of Women's Evolution during this past week's Raw 30th anniversary special. And they appeared on Tamron Hall's eponymous syndicated talk show, taking issue with just how minimal the female presence was on Monday's show, saying, quote, when you have love and passion for something with all your heart and soul, you want to be appreciated. And I think that's in any industry, Nikki told Hall. For us female wrestlers, it was Raw 30, the 30th anniversary. And throughout those 30 years, women have done a whole lot to make Raw what it is. So when you have a 3-hour show and it's male-dominated and women aren't being honoured pretty much at all, you just sit back and you're like, why aren't we being appreciated? Like, why don't you even have a video package showcasing what all of these incredible women have done? Now, of course, the only female returning legend to make an appearance was Medusa / Alundra Blaze, but she was just one of these names that was playing poker backstage. Now, Hall of Famer Lita was at the show, according to PW Insider. She wasn't used on television. As for the Bellas, they were booked on their media tour for Nikki Bella Says I Do, a miniseries spin-off of Total Divas and Total Bellas. Now, she continued, Nikki Bella, saying, quote, it made me upset for all the women because I know that feeling of walking out to the ring, and it happens to some of the men, but where you walk out and you put your body on the line, you give it your all just to entertain the fans and TV viewers, and you just come back and you want to feel appreciated for that. I feel that if a wrestler even leaves the company or they're no longer there, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be remembered. I wished and I hoped, and maybe they will do more in the future. We still have a way to go, but that the women will finally be appreciated for what they do. As for her twin sister Brie Bella, she made a point to stress that their complaints were not about themselves, saying, quote, I think when Nikki and I speak, it always makes headlines. But the thing is, we love that we come from passion for women, not ourselves. The Bella twins don't have to be at Raw 30. It's only other women that we can give the whole long list that should have been there. Now, I could be cynical here. I think they're right with what they're saying, but at the same time, it makes for good press for this show that they happen to be doing media about, doesn't it? Just saying. Doudrop finally hasn't been on TV for a long time, and now we actually have a reason as to why. Doudrop was last seen on WWE television on September 6, 2022 on an episode of NXT where she teamed with Nikki ASH in a victory over Toxic Attraction's Gigi Dolan and JC Jane. As previously reported, the WWE star revealed the reason behind her absence in a reply to a fan on social media. However, she's now discussed it further in a new interview. Speaking with Denise Salcedo of Instinct Culture, Doudrop opened up about her health scare on possibly returning for the Royal Rumble. She said, quote, I'll be around. In what capacity? I'm not going to tell. But I'll be around. I've had some time off to deal with a health scare that I had. Luckily, that's all it was. It was just a scare. Everything was always great. Sadly, I got COVID real bad. The symptoms that I was having, they were concerned about my heart. God bless them. They took the best care of me. They got every test for my heart they could muster, and every single one of them came back clean as a whistle. crystal. Much to some people's annoyance, my heart is in excellent condition. So do drop. She could be one of the names that appears at the Rumble tomorrow night. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.